We're live.
We're on. Oh, man, that's
We're
a bit,
on.
isn't it? What happened there? It's a bit weird.
It was YouTube.
Hang on, I'm getting
So
a bit of feedback in my headset. Why?
you are?
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm not hearing any. Are you
Oh,
getting
now,
it still?
now I don't seem to be getting it. Okay.
Okay. I think
I
it's
don't know.
because I had my phone on. I wanted to be able to look at the chat.
Oh, so it's your fault. Here we go again. There's me looking at my gear. I'm straight away like, oh no, I've cocked something up. And it's you with your freaking dog and bone, innit? You're bleeding. You got your phone.
Well, I wanted to be able to look at the chat and be able to talk like Dan's in there. Hey, Dan, let's go. He's down there. So I just forgot to turn down the volume.
I'm like, never heard that. Why can I hear this freaking voice coming back at me? And I'm looking at me shit like, it's got to be me. And I know you've adjusted your mic and I've adjusted stuff here, right? So
Yeah.
all of a sudden I'm thinking, we're going to do, because I'm asking the questions today, right?
Yep.
I'm going to have feedback. Brilliant. But yeah, I'm going to...
No, you're good. I fixed it. So no worries. We're live, and we'll see what happens.
Dude, I was thinking about you last night because you keep coming to freaking mind, mate, over and over again. That's why this interview. That's why I don't know much about you. Right. So you came to mind last night because we've had the our little chats here and there, about stuff like we was coming on here, right? And we forgot we had to go like actually on,
Yes.
the live. So you came to mind last night because with that freaking moon last night, mate, it was insane. The moon.
Yeah, it was.
Dude, mate, I went out walking with my oldest daughter, and we came around the corner, and it was weird. It was like it looked like a picture. The clouds were just sitting just right on it, and they weren't covering it. It was freaking huge, right?
Yeah.
And we went for our walk, and we're chatting and shit. And on the way back, I went, hold up a minute. And I walked over on the grass, and I took my shoes and socks off and stood in the grass, earthing myself out, right? Looking at the moon, freaking pulling that freaking energy in, right?
Yeah.
So my daughter goes, oh, I'm going to do that too. So she, jumps on the grass like that, and then she goes, all right, come on, we'll walk off. Dude, I got onto the paving, and they've not long pressure washed it, so it's really rough.
Yeah.
Right? I get my feet up on it, and I thought of you walking across the freaking coals. Remember what you told me? Because I start walking up like, oh, this fucking hurts, right? So I'm like, tune in, and fucking Beckett. Coals was ringing in my head. Yeah, when you were walking across the hot coals, mate, and you told me that one, and you're like, it didn't even burn. And I'm like, well, I'm feeling this freaking roughness on my feet.
Well, it's a little different walking on coals than it is, walking on rough pavement.
Well, something nice and hot that can really burn your feet off where you think you'd feel something. Not you. Nah. Hence the interview.
It's a mindset game. It really is. I mean, it was an interesting, I like to put myself in uncomfortable situations.
Yeah, you do, for sure. And I like doing it myself. But anyway, it's because we're going to go off because we start talking, Beckett.
Hey, this is your show today, so.
Right. So anyway, I want to first say how I met you. It's kind of weird how I met you, right?
Yeah.
Not so long ago.
Yeah.
And it actually, when I thought about it the other day, I thought, oh, this is really weird. I don't know if you know, because I met you through my therapist. You don't know.
What?
Right. Right. I was working with my therapist who knows Kat Angel. You know her? You know her. Kat.
I don't.
Right? Joe best friend.
I don't know her, but I've been told I need to talk to her.
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Very high energy. Just, she's on my Instagram and anyway. So I met Kat.
Right.
We start clicking. Surprise, surprise. Right. And then Joe Beth interviewed Kat.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I listened to that. I start following Joe Beth a little bit and finding out, okay, who's this?
Right.
Right. And I start looking at videos and listening to some podcasting and all that. And then she interviewed you.
Yes.
So, and then afterwards, I'm like, this guy's interesting. So, and then I reached out to you for Instagram and said, hey, man, great interview. Really, that was pretty much it. And you got back to me.
Yeah.
And then it all went tits up from there. It was game on. It just, you know, and then I'm sitting on my front porch and I was reading a book and I'm just out there because it's really nice in the afternoon. The it's going down, but it's just nice sitting out there. The freaking, you know. And I'm sitting out there and I get this message on my phone from you. Hey, man, would you go on my channel and talk your life? And I'm like, what the? No one's ever done that to me, you know? And then that was it, matey. Yeah, and we just started talking. So that's how I met you.
Yeah.
So no, and I hardly know you. I mean, it feels.
I feel like we know each other, but yes, realistically, we hardly know each other.
It's weird because I said to you, like, probably, I don't know, it was a few days after we did you did the interview bit when I was on your channel, gracefully.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, what's going on here? Right? Because it was like I knew you and I was talking to you like I knew you.
Yeah.
Like I took the mates that I've known for years. Yeah. Right. And it just started clicking. And then we just started talking and it went one, and then it was like, okay, who is this guy? You keep coming up with shit that I think I know a bit of you. Then you hit me with one today, which we're going to talk about. You hit me with one today and I'm like, who is this guy? It's like, I really am freaking figuring you out. So I want to know about you, right? So I've reached it because I told you before, I had bits of freaking paper with questions all over the place. My head's been like bouncing like a freaking ping pong since I knew I was going to do this shit. And I had to narrow it down over the course of the last hour to where I wanted to go with it. Because I wanted to go all different, because you're out there. Right? So I really start from the beginning, man, the early years. Like, where was you born? Where was you brought up? What did you want to be when you were younger?
You know, I was born in Buffalo, New York. That's where I was brought up. 30 minutes from the Canadian border. So we visited Canada a lot. So it's like a second home to me. And I don't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. You know, I was always creative. And the good thing about it was my family was very open. They weren't the type of parents, like my mom wasn't the type of parents to be like, no, you can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, you're not going to make money doing that. So I went to college for video production. I had a minor in English. I wanted to get into the movies. I loved the fact of putting images to music and sound and words. I was very creative, could move people. Right? Yeah, they could invoke something in somebody. And so I went to college studying that. And every alternating year when you graduate at the school I went to, it was a SUNY school, which in New York, there's a college system called SUNY. So I went to SUNY Fredonia. And
what is that?
SUNY it's called the State University of New York. So it's kind of the state colleges of all of New York. They have different branches of it. So depending on what you wanted to do was the college you wanted to go to. I got into Syracuse University. I got into Ithaca University, but I couldn't afford it.
Yeah, dreaded fucking.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would have walked out of. I wanted to go to Ithaca because they were big in communications. Both those schools were big in communications, and I just would have walked out. I mean, it was like $25,000 a year.
Holy.
Yeah.
I've often sat here because I've got two girls.
Yeah.
Scott and I'm like, how do they come?
It was a lot. I would have to work, and I had to work through college anyways, which I didn't mind. You know, I put myself through school. My parents didn't have a lot, so. You know, I ended up going to a state college because it was cheaper and it was far enough away and I could afford it and still get a good education. So, you know, every alternating year there, though, the big project is either a film, an actual feature film that you do, or a documentary. And depending on what year you graduated, depending on what you got. And I got the documentary, which I love.
I love documentaries.
Yeah, I love documentaries. So you had to write, produce, do it. So we did one on homelessness in the area, and we actually linked up with a actual nonprofit company that they were going to take this doc to legislature to gain more, with more awareness and more money and get grants and to see that, to learn what is really homelessness. Because most people think homelessness, they're drug addicts, they're alcoholics.
Label.
Right. And they're not. The majority of that, like, I remember we were shooting in a soup kitchen and we divided the soup kitchen and we said, if you don't want to be on camera, sit on the left. If you do, sit on the right. We were a 3-person production team. And I remember this woman coming up to me and saying, and my heart broke. She said, whatever you do, please don't put me on camera. My kids don't know I live this way.
Oh, shh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What
It was a
went through
big.
your head? How did that,
Yeah.
because all of a sudden you're not thinking fucking production, right?
Well, it just opened my eyes to everybody, everybody that we met. It was a family whose, home burned down or, you know what I mean? Like they had a medical emergency that just blew their I mean, it was like one catastrophic event made them homeless. And, we don't have a system here, at least in the States, that really lifts people up out of it. Right.
Right.
And they were trying to do that in the town. They, had temporary apartments and were helping them, find work or get them extra finances to get them into, a home or get them back on their feet. So I have a soft spot now in my heart for homeless people. Like yeah, I make a point of talking to them. I make a point of sitting with them. I look at them and think, this is somebody's brother. This is somebody's sister, mom, dad, cousin. They were important to somebody.
Yeah. Dude, they're all over London.
Yeah.
It's because they was flocking down from like Northway, young kids get into the city, it'll give you everything. Don't give you shit. Right? You're just burying yourself into more poverty, really. If you can't handle it, you ain't going nowhere.
Well, yeah.
And it just went to the poverty and homelessness in the city.
It's heartbreaking, and so I tend to try to treat them as human as possible and talk. And they're the most giving people you would ever meet on the planet.
Oh, dude, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, man. I used to make a point of going around and I'd throw a few coins to them, or, like you say, some of them you get talking to. They're just human beings.
Well, I used to keep bags in my car that would have like toothbrush, toothpaste, socks, food.
Oh wow,
You know what I
wow.
mean? And give those to them because true homeless people are grateful for anything. The
Yeah,
ones that are really looking for drugs or alcohol, they want the money. Do you know what I mean? And they don't want the food. You'll find that a lot of them be like, I don't want that. It's like, okay, well then you're not really, you know what I mean? But most of the homeless people I come in contact are just grateful for whatever. And I remember this guy in Canada when I was living there. He was shoveling the sidewalks to earn money. He was homeless. And at the time, my wife at the time was like, what are you doing? I said, I'll be right back. And I walked up to him and I handed him a $50 bill. And he started crying and he gave me this hug and he said, I was looking to buy groceries today. Now it's Canada. It's winter. It's cold.
yeah, for sure, dude. Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Like it's cold. And I'm like, he's like, I didn't know. And he was out there. He would shovel the sidewalks. Sometimes the businesses would give him money. And he gave me a huge hug and he told me how grateful he was. I said, well, how do you survive in this coldness? And he said, oh, I'm so grateful because the bus depot lets me, dry my clothes there by hanging it over heaters. And I have this great place under a bridge. Like, here's a guy who could just be so negative.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Got nothing.
Not, he was just happy and grateful. And he's like, it's not that bad. And I can find extra layers of sweaters. And, like, it was just, by the time I walked away, I was in tears. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah, you can't help but connect with people. Can't
well,
help
you
it.
look right. It's just like, I have nothing to complain about. This man is full of gratitude and is living in a tent under a bridge in minus 20 degrees.
Right.
And
Right.
it's just grateful that the bus depot lets him dry out his sweaters and his sweatshirts. And
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. We live a privileged life. Right?
yeah,
Really do. And you lose connection with it. I've always been one for the homeless, even when I lived in London. My mum was a soft touch for the homeless, like I did. I was like grateful for the fact that I got a fucking,
yeah.
didn't have much, but didn't want for food or anything like that, But look at the other people. yeah, like you're saying, the cold, freaking cold as shit, right?
Yeah.
And they're out there on the damn street, man. I used to give them food. You know, I'd buy food in a fast food place and give it to somebody down the street. I gave a guy a burger,
Yeah.
2 burgers, and I gave it to this fella. It was like I gave him a freaking gold.
Oh yeah, they're super grateful. Yeah,
Yeah,
super grateful.
yeah,
I mean, he
yeah,
even asked me, he's like, "Do you want to maybe give me change and not the 50?" I'm like, "Dude, just keep the 50." I
yeah,
mean, like,
yeah.
go get something warm and keep, your. But I don't go around telling people. I mean, I'm sharing it with you, but it's not something I go around and tell people that I do that.
Yeah, no, because you don't need to. You know,
No, it's not the
because it
point.
gives you, well, yeah, and it gives you the you know what it does, right? It gives you the gratitude. You have that, that worth and purpose. It gives you that need, right? But
But yeah, I just want them to feel seen. I want them to feel like they're human, and I wanted to be like, I see you. You know what I mean? And you are a part of this society, and somebody
right,
notices you.
right, right, and it don't always take money, like you say, just talking.
Yeah.
Making them feel freaking human. People walk over them all the time, and if you stop and just talk to them, like, "What's up? How'd you get here?" They'll tell you.
Oh, they're
Look
so
at
grateful. They're like, thank you for taking time to just talk to me. Like, so many
yeah,
people won't even look at me.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you give them worth. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
that's kind of how I started out in life.
now this one, I mean, amongst all that, right? When was the first time that you can remember tuning into this whole energy thing that you've got going on now? When was the first time that you can did you have it as a kid? Was there something that you was kind of conscious of with something like happening but not sure? What's that story? How did you get connected?
That's a good question. I think it's always been part of my family. My mom would go to this place in New York called Lilydale.
What's
And
that?
Lilydale it's a community in Western New York made up of like psychics and energy people, and they kind of lived in this one little area, and they would go down there and you could get a reading or you could just walk around the town and get to talk to them, and so it was kind of in my family. It's something my mom dips and dips out of, but it was something that I knew it was innately a part of me. I knew there was always something more. There was always, I don't know. I always just felt odd and out. I was the outside of things. You know what I mean? I didn't like cliques. I didn't like labels. I didn't really fit in anywhere, even though I got along with everybody.
Okay. Is that with school and everything as well? Like, was that
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Like, I mean, I played soccer. Well, for you guys, it's football. You know what I mean? But I played that for 13 years. I had a lot of friends, and even
hold on,
now,
time out a minute. What's your favourite team? What's your favourite team? Come on. You better come up with the right answer. Favourite team.
I don't, I don't have a right answer.
Right, well done. Good answer. See? There we go.
Right now, I'm trying to support it over here locally. Like, we just got a pro
Good answer.
Charlotte team that I'm trying to.
I'll let you off, Beckett. Carry
Yeah,
on.
thanks.
So, so, so footy, bit of a footy player. Yeah, 13 years footy playing. Okay.
Yeah, I played year round. I was pretty good at it. I got moved up from JV to varsity. I played sweeper.
Oh, no shit.
I went from like halfback to defense, and then finally I was in sweeper.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wicked. Doggos. Blimey. You know what I mean? It's like, footy player. When you came out with that one with me, you were like, you kind of just slipped it in one day. It was like, yeah, I played football for 13 years. What?
Yeah, I started in third grade and played all the way up. And actually, I even got a scholarship for college, but it wasn't a school I wanted to go to. And pro soccer really wasn't a big thing back then. You know what I mean? And so I was like, well, what am I going to do with this? So
Yeah. Well, in the US, it hardly really, I mean, it existed when I moved here, but it wasn't like it now. It's, you talk about some of the US football teams, and they're good,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean, the international football team was pretty damn good. I mean, watching them play, and I'm like, all right, and I'm not a footy player. I know footy players, well, I know another one. But yeah, it was, you said about football.
Well, I mean, you got Beckham now owning a team here, and I liked Beckham back then because he was the only big, over here we didn't have all that, so it was like,
Right, yeah.
you know, it
Right.
was like, I don't know. It was just a sport I was drawn to and I really enjoyed it. It kept my brain active and it wasn't boring. And
So how did you get into the? When did you first realize about connecting? When
I
did you
think
start?
once I started to get to school, once I went to college and really sat with myself, but more so once I moved and I came to North Carolina, I realized I was gifted in other ways. You know, I could always just kind of know things and I didn't know why I knew them. And I kind of went through this whole spiritual journey of like, what do I believe at 25? You know, I just went through, I read this book called God's Breath that I talk about a lot. And it's got like all the major religions in it and talks to you about like what are the key components of the beliefs of each religion. It's like this thick.
Oh wow,
And
that's I'd be interested. God's breath.
God's Breath, yeah, it was I mean, you're talking years ago and I was 25. So I was just like, and I lived in Charlotte. So I'd moved here. So there's like a church I mean, that's the second largest business in Charlotte is church.
Oh yeah, I've been up that way, mate. Yeah, I
Yeah,
hear you.
so there's a church on every corner. So I made a point of going to different churches and just observing, you know, what did they believe? What were they teaching? Did I align with it? Did I not? You know, I was 25 years old. What did I know? I just knew I believed in something bigger and I didn't know what that belief was. I was raised with Catholic, but my mom just raised us because she felt like we should have something.
Okay,
And that's
I get
what our family was in. And so once, you know, we got a choice, like once we got to sixth grade, you could continue on or just leave. And I left. I was like, I don't want this.
So you was brought up to be open minded. Like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah, get you. Yeah. Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, you know, but I knew there was something more. So it was like kind of it opened me up to be able to go explore. So probably when I came out of that and realized like after reading that book, I realized every sacred text and everything was saying kind of the same thing of basically the golden rule of right, treat people how you want to be treated.
Yep. Yep.
You know,
Yep.
that
I do
was
that with my clients. Do you use that? I use that on my when they're having like issues with that when it comes to religion and shit. I'm like, hey, listen, if you take every head, you know, Jesus Christ and
yeah,
whoever else, right? I'm going to go through them all, but you line them up and ask them. They're all going to say the same thing:
yeah.
love one another, be kind to others, help somebody out,
Yeah, it's
live a
just it's the same thing every, you know, so it was like, okay, it's just different paths, right? And none of them are right or wrong, except you know, living in the South, they believe R is the only path. And I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, you know, and I would have these conversations. You think you could be annoyed with me. I would have conversations people would hear. And I said to the Southerners, right? And I would say to them, okay, so you believe God made everybody on the planet? Yes. Do you believe God made a mistake? No. Okay, so you knew as a Christian that God would make people who would have all these different religions. Correct. Well, then how are you the only one that's right and all of them are wrong?
right. I never thought about that. Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
and so they would look at me like, it's just that way. I said, so you're saying that he made a mistake, but you just told me that he doesn't make mistakes.
Right.
And so they would just shut it down and be like, you just need to go away.
Yeah, 'cause there's no answer, right? It's like I say to people, I said to someone once, do you like oak trees? They're like, yeah, beautiful, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. So I said, how'd the oak tree get there? And they said, well, with an acorn. Okay. How'd the acorn get there? Had to come from somewhere. Didn't just freaking take a branch and shove it and stay grow into an oak, right?
Yeah.
And where did the acorn come from? Who made the acorn?
Yeah.
You'll have a seed.
Right.
Right? So is that when you started it? When you started questioning, is when you started connecting more, and so
Yeah.
which leads me to the next question, which is about the journey. Like, how did it all start? How did he? Because it sounds like that's the direction that you were starting to go in. Was the question?
Yeah, I started there and then I found this spiritual center that, you know, it was based on the Course of Miracles. I don't know if you've ever heard of that book or read that book. It's pretty popular in spiritual communities. It basically is the teaching that God is within you, God is within everything. Like you are connected to everything. Whatever you call it, God, universe, source, they don't care. It's like you're not outside of this thing that's here. You're connected, you're the same. And so I started going there by myself and meeting people, and I really liked the pastors. And it was this two lesbian couple that ran it at the time. So it was really a diverse group of people, you know, really learning and understanding. And things started to shift in me. And then my friends started to notice because it would kind of set up my energy for the week. You know what I mean? It just made me feel good. And I'm like, oh, I feel connected in some way. And my friends were like, dude, like, what is going on with you? I was like, I don't know. Right? They're like, they noticed the shift. And I was like, well, I go to the spiritual center every week. Every Sunday I go. And they were like, oh, so then they started to go,
Ah,
you know, and then it just grew and grew.
yeah, started pulling in the community.
Yeah.
So what was the community then? Was it all healers and everything? What was
No, it was just people who were looking to believe in something that knew that there was something more outside themselves and they wanted to connect to that, right? And they wanted to open themselves up and yeah, and explore and go, what is that? And how do I use this energy in my life? And you know, what is it that helps my relationships? How does it, you know, do I see manifestations happening, and why, you know what I mean? Like they're questioning everything they were taught, some that came from religion. This didn't make sense to me, but this does. And why is that? And so it was just that. It was people seeking community and openness and understanding and compassion and saying, I know there's something bigger than me and I want to connect to it.
which is what you need. That's why we freaking
Right.
this. You know, when I went and did my pranic healing classes, it was out in a church that was just like that. It was a church, community of people. They even had a bookstore. It was all like spiritual books, but
Yeah.
different. You know, you didn't walk in there and see God books.
Right.
it was all to do with universe and I believe they meet. I've never been. I'm freaking terrible, right? But because it is that community of people that you want to. I'm looking to surround myself with.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's how I meeting you, and how I met Jabeth, and how I met Kat. You know, and it's
Yes.
surrounding yourself with those, and then it grows. So how did it grow for you?
Well, I think, you know, I started to you start vibrating with, you start drawing and your vibration starts raising and you start learning the energy and the manifestation technique. And the Course of Miracles kind of talks about that. It's kind of like, I would say, if you're really new to spiritualism, it's like spiritualism 101. You know what I mean? It's like where you start and understand that you're all connected and how do you manifest and how do you treat, you know, and how do you work with the energy you have. And it's kind of that basic start. And then for me, as that went on, my life shifted and I went there for years and I was a big part of the community, and the community started to shift and we couldn't meet where we used to, and they had broken up and things just, you know, as it does, things evolve. And right. And so right before that, I had moved to Canada for the year. You know, that's a whole different story we'll go into some other time because there's a whole lot of weird stuff that happened there.
I'm not going to have you, Beckett. Don't want to do that, mate.
Well, it was in Canada that I realized my gifts, my true gifts. It was in Canada when I was like, I don't know if you know who Abraham Hicks is, but it was in. Yeah. So when she says you're in the vortex, my whole year of living in Canada, I was in the vortex. You know what I mean? Like, I just had stuff happen and I knew, and it was like, oh, okay, this is what this is. This is what she's talking about. This is like, I tell people that story and their minds are blown. That whole Canadian.
What is that? Being in the vortex. Come on, you can smile all you want, mate. You ain't getting away with it.
Well, the vortex is like when you are in the vortex, when you're vibrating at the frequency of the things that you want, when you're feeling connected, things just start to happen when, for instance, I'll give you an instance in the story. When I moved to Canada, I wasn't going to stay there. I ended up being in a car accident, ended up having to stay. Canada was having Calgary, Canada, which is where I was having a housing crisis. So there wasn't enough housing for the people that were there. The city was growing. Like literally there'd be 10 people in line for an apartment. Right. So we were staying with a friend, renting a room. They were selling their house. We had needed to find a place to stay. And I knew there was things I wanted. And at the time, we didn't know that we would find them. Right. And so we go to see this. We went to this metaphysical store. We have a reading with this woman who talks to angels. And she says to us, which I had never done, she said, you're not gonna find it online, the place that you're looking for, but you need to go to Dalhousie, which is a suburb. Okay. And she goes, I don't know anything about Dalhousie. I'm looking at my wife at the time who lives there from there. She's like, I don't know anything about it. She goes, but you're going to have to go there. That's where they're telling me to tell you to go. So I go look up a coffee shop because I was an artist, and you could put, coffee shops I love. Great community place to go. Find this coffee shop called Euphoria. Great. Let's go to the coffee shop tomorrow, get a look at the area. On our way to the coffee shop, we're driving, and my wife says to me, turn around. And I said, why? And she said, there's a chair in the snow with a sign that says for rent. And I said, what? So we turn around, we call there. Now I wanted like a driveway because they have a lot of alleys there. I wanted a fireplace. I wanted all these things that I had written down. And she was like, you're never going to find that. Okay, so whatever. So we pull in, it has a driveway. We call the woman. She said, I've already rented the place, but I'll show it to you. Fantastic. This older woman meets us, has everything I wanted on the list. Fireplace, driveway, like everything. And she says to me, I don't know why I'm doing this. She's taking us through here, right? And she says, oh, don't mind it. It was very clean. But she goes, I gave this just a quick lick and a promise. And I went, what did you say?
Well, you don't hear that.
No, you don't. You don't.
I freaking know that saying, dude.
I know, you don't hear it, but my grandmother was the only one who would ever say it to me. And so she said, oh, what? She goes, I said I gave this a quick lick and a promise. And I just went, what? And she goes, what? I said, I've only heard my grandmother say that.
Yeah.
So she takes us around, and at the end of it, she goes, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I've already rented the place, but I feel like I'm supposed to rent it to you. And I said, well, I don't have a deposit. Like, I wasn't prepared to, like, I was going to the coffee shop to even look at the area. I wasn't prepared to find a place to rent that day. And I said, I don't have a deposit to give you. I have no, and she goes, that's fine. She goes, that's not something I normally would do either. She goes, but I'll hold it for you. Now, wait till you get to the kicker. She goes, till you get me the deposit. And I said, really? And she goes, yeah, I just feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. And I went, okay. So, of course, we're going to take this. There's a housing crisis, mind you. There's no houses available. So we walk out of the house. The dude that was going to rent the house was there waiting with a check, giving her the deposit. And he looks at her, and he's got the check, and she turns and looks at him, and she said, I'm sorry, I'm renting it to them. And he was like, what the hell? And I felt really bad, and I was just like, oh, shit. So she held it for us. So wait, there's one. We never made it to the coffee shop. So the next day, we go back to the metaphysical store because I want to tell that angel reader, thank you. You know what I mean? Yeah. She walked in, right? She goes, I said, oh my God, I did what you said. We found a place, like we've secured it. Like, you're never gonna believe this. And she got all goosebumps, and she gave us a hug, and she's like, I'm just the messenger. And I was like, So I said, well, let's go back to the coffee shop. Now that we're going to live there, we need to know the area. So I go to the coffee shop the next day, meet the owner. His name's Matt. I see his artist up there. And I said, hey, Matt, do you switch out artists? I'm an artist. And he said, oh, yeah. He's like, I'm booked for the next few months, though. But, if you want to leave your name and number, great. Show me some of your pieces. I gave him my Instagram. All great. We leave. I literally get back to our place because now I got to pack to move. I get a phone call. It's Matt. He's like, hey, man. He's like, I said, oh, hey, Matt. And he said, yeah, you were just in here talking to me. I said, yeah. And he goes, I said, did something fall through? You know what I mean? Do you have an opportunity for me? And he goes, no, not exactly. Nothing fell through. And I said, okay, what's going on? And he said, I'm calling because I want to give you a wall in the coffee shop. We're expanding, and I want to give you the wall. And I said, oh, okay, for like a month. And he said, no, permanently. And I went, what? He goes, I saw your art, and I was looking at it online, and he goes, there's just something about it, man. And I was like, so I want to have it featured on the wall for as long as you want it. You can sell your stuff. And I said, oh, okay. I'm like, what and I'm like, well, how much do you want? Because, usually they take a small percentage, which is right.
Yeah.
Nothing. I don't want nothing. I just want
to. Really? I knew it. I knew it. I knew you. There's something. I knew it.
That's the vortex. So I ended up we would hide paintings in his place, and if a painting would sell, I would have him keep the money and buy his customers more coffee. as a thank you. And to this day, my art is still up at that coffee shop.
No shit.
Yeah.
Damn, dude. Wow.
Yeah, it's still there. I've still talked to him and he like followed it. So I mean, it was stuff like that that in the, like I would put paintings and be creating them and people would buy them. Like I'd put them on Instagram, you know, this is what I'm working on. People were like, sold, I want it. I'm like, it's not even done yet. And they're like, I don't care, I want it.
Already done. Already.
I had two sisters fighting for it. One that wasn't even done, that the one sister came to my home to buy it before her sister could have it.
Wow, dude.
It was crazy.
See that shit you can't help. It
No.
don't happen. Right.
Well, but we say that, right? So this is my point, that if anybody could learn anything from this is to understand that even when reality seems like everything is against you, and it was, right? There was a housing shortage. There was no places to rent. Like anybody else would have looked at us logically and said, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? What you think you're going to get or what you want can't happen. But the universe was showing me in the most extreme way, oh, it can.
Yeah.
It can, and it will.
You said there was 10 people waiting.
Yeah,
Like,
well, for shitty apartments, like apartments that I didn't even want. They had a line of 10 people. Like, I'll take it. I don't care, because there was people who were working who were having to stay in the homeless shelters because they couldn't find an apartment to live in.
Holy shit! You got everything that you wanted. It don't happen. I mean, it's put right. It's you, dude. It's Beckett.
Well, no, it's not. It's my point is like it's reminding people of understanding that if I could do this, and I'm just an average person, I am. I'm not saying, right, because I say that and people are like, oh, you're special. I'm like, I'm not putting myself down. What I'm saying is I'm no different than any of you watching this or, you know, here with us right now. You guys can do this. And right. It's understanding that you don't believe the reality that's being told to you and understand that you create the reality you live in.
For sure. No, you're absolutely. I mean, you know, it wasn't until I got out of my old shitty self, you know, and started to see myself that there's things I'm doing now that I would this alone, you know.
Well, that's the vortex, right? That's what Abraham Hicks on those high flying discs. She's like, when you're in the vortex, you feel it. That you don't have to do anything. You just have to keep that frequency and allow things to come. All I did was seek out a reading from an angel reader, and it just dominoed from there.
Right. Madness.
But I took steps. So when she said go to Dalhousie, I went. Do you know what I mean? So that's where you're working with, where you got to work with the universe. When the universe gives you signs and signals, you take action on them. You take inspired action on them, because then that's what brings that vortex and that energy keeps going. If I went to the reader and she'd been like, yeah, go to Dalhousie, and I walked out and went, whatever.
Right. I mean, it's the same thing. I answered you. I normally wouldn't have ever done that. My fear kicked in. I would have been like, holy shit, who's this guy? You know, judgment, you know.
Right.
Right? And it wouldn't have happened. But it was that freaking, okay, I'm being told this is happening somehow.
Yes.
Contacting me for something. So I just went with it. And now it's just, you know.
And that's the inspired action, and that's what Abraham Hicks talks about, and that's what Bashar, if you ever watch him, he tells you, you know, just do the next thing that brings excitement to you, right? And I love coffee shops, and so I'm like, okay, so now I'm going to be living there in Dalhousie, so now I need to go to that coffee shop because it's going to be in my neighborhood, and they do artists, and it's named Euphoria. I mean, come on. So
I swear, I thought when you were talking, I thought he's going in a coffee shop, and it was all gonna, but it didn't. That was complete shit.
Complete. And we had, Matt and I had a relationship for years. And then I ended up making friends with the women that owned the art store there. And then there was another lady who's actually on my Instagram now. We're still friends, owned a metaphysical shop. She bought some of my paintings and wanted to have me sell them in her shop in Calgary. We're still friends today. And I walked into her shop and I had like 6 or 7 paintings done. And she looked at the top one. She goes, I want that one. And I was like, what? She's like, that one's mine. And I went, okay. And she's like, how much is it? I'm like, 500. She's like, here you go.
Shit. Wow. Wow. Just keep, and it does, man. It does. Just keep the
It
energy.
snowballs. Right.
You're right, dude.
You just got to keep taking the action and keep listening to the universe and looking for the signs and going, I may not know where this is leading. This may sound crazy to everybody else, right? Like us going there looking for a place to live sounded crazy to all our friends. They're like, oh, okay, good luck with that. And yet their minds were blown when we came back and went, yeah, not only did we get a house, we got a house that was much bigger than what we needed. And so a couple of our friends could move in with us and now also had a home.
Oh, no shit. Yeah. No shit. Not crazy. Freaking it all happened for a reason, man. All day, you know, it all freaking slots in. You put that energy out there and you're going to bring that shit in. I mean, I've had plenty of experiences with that, you know.
Right.
As soon as I started believing it, that's the thing, is trusting it and believing it.
Well, that's key because most people believe it once they see it. But the difference is, right, you got to believe before you see it. You have to know. Then that's why I said if you can wrap your head around and know that everything is energy and everything is frequency, and I can play with energy and frequency, then why couldn't I create, you know, just like she said, you can manifest a button or a mansion. It takes the same amount of energy.
Exactly.
It's just you believe more in buttons than you believe in your ability to manifest a mansion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, oh shit.
That's what holds you back.
Yeah, you got your mind, you know, yeah, for sure. It's like dating, dude. I was, you know, my wife, when I met my wife, I felt well out of my league.
Yeah.
That was my mindset. Like, no, I didn't hardly date. Everybody was way out of my league. They ain't going to, you know, abandonment, rejection, you know, don't go up to them because if they turn around and go, oh, you're going to really be crushed, right? So I never used to date. But it's that mindset. I didn't go up to girls that were really attractive to me. It was like, no chance. This guy, no. So when my wife come along, it's completely out of the blue. And I'm looking at her going, well, you're the girls that I used to.
Right.
And then it just, you know, but yeah, to your point, man. Yeah, you think low, you'll get low. You go, you know, if you don't underestimate yourself.
Well, and we all do, right? So that's like, okay, how can I learn that? And that's what made me. So the universe for me was showing me. It's like, look, I'm putting you in extreme circumstances where I had you couldn't, like, to your point, I can't question that. It happened.
Right.
Like, it happened. I mean, there's no, like, this is impossible. It happened. And it was like, so you can't question this anymore. Like, this is real things. And now what are you going to do with it? How are you going to work with it?
Right, exactly. Yeah. The next question throw in and it's going to go there and then we're going to come back a bit.
Okay.
But when you were told that you had a 1% chance of living, how did that change your mind?
Ooh. I think, you know, it took me a while to even get to the point cognitively where I could even comprehend that. You know, because I try to tell people, you know, with the injury, it wasn't like I woke up in the hospital and went, oh, I'm in the hospital. Or, you know, like you see in the movies where they're like, oh, you've had a brain injury. That's why you're here. You know, that didn't happen. I still didn't know who I was when they let me go. You know what I mean? I didn't know.
I just pushed you out front and went.
Yeah. That's why I think a lot of homeless people have brain injuries, because had I not had family and friends with me, I didn't even know to eat. I didn't know to go to the bathroom. I didn't know to do basic things. Cognitively, I did not know. And they wheeled me out and just kind of went, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. Beautiful.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it wasn't until months later, I don't know how to explain it to people, where I just kind of, I don't know, came back to life. I don't know how to explain it, where I, you know, saw the paperwork of my release and then, you know, showing all the notes and what happened and what was happening, and realizing, like, you know, and then obviously my friends and family telling me, you know, they were told two things: to understand that the person that went in, the person that comes out may be totally different. And, you know, right now there's a 1% chance of survival. Because when they called my family, you know, they were in Buffalo, I was in Charlotte, and they said, you need to come now. I was in ICU. They didn't know if I would make it through the night. So my parents and my sister grabbed the plane, and that's where my sister's husband, who was a detective now, he was a state trooper then, had said to her before she left, there was blood coming out of his nose and ears. So for anybody that upsets, sorry about that, but there was, and she said, "Yeah, why?" And he said he wouldn't tell her why, but he said, "You need to go now." And so when she came home, he shared with her that anytime he has come upon an accident where that person has had an injury like that and that was happening, they never lived. So, yeah. And even the way, like when people say like, what happened, I flew off the back of a pickup truck, people, that way people are like, most of the time, 99% of the time when that happens to people, they don't survive it. So
Absolutely meant to be, obviously.
well, yeah, yeah. I mean, they started my friend called the Spiritual Center that I was talking to. They really rallied around me, which is something I really adored about that community. And she had, said like, we need a prayer circle or something. And she called other people and they ended up throwing me a fundraiser. But I believe all that energy did help me because they didn't have to go in and do surgery, which it was getting near the pressure in my head because it stayed closed was getting to the point where surgery was going to have to be, needed. But I think two things for that came out of it was I didn't want to waste a second chance at life when so many who have a brain injury don't get that second chance.
Yeah.
But B, it really made me see life in a way that I got life, unlike I've ever gotten life before.
Is that where like, because I guess in the moment, like when it happened, when I say to you, what was the shift? You didn't really know then, right? Because
No, because I have no memory of my accident. Even to this day, I have no memory of my accident.
so if you look at the position you're in now, looking back, let me ask that: the position you're in now, looking back, how has that shifted your thinking?
I think I was doing all that spiritual work, and I had felt like when you come close to dying, you have such a reverence for life in a way that you can't. It's very hard to put into words to people what that is. You know what I mean? But you feel life on such a different level, like even listening to birds sing or colors out in nature, or just the energy of life itself affects you in such a profound way that you're like, whoa, I see it now. Nothing was important to me as far as like monetary things or cars or, what I mean? It wasn't about that. It was about connection to people and about, what can I do with this second chance at life? And I don't know. It awakens you, and then it awakened me. And I had already said that and got confirmation, which I know Cassandra was on here. I don't know if she still is, but she kind of confirmed that when I had my galactic astrology reading with her. I had always said to people, they said, "Why do you think you survived?" And I said, I think that I needed to do an up leveling of my consciousness. I needed to wipe my consciousness clean and up level it to a higher consciousness for whatever my purpose is here on this planet. And I had at the time, no factual reason to believe that. That was just innately what I was feeling needed to happen. And that was just a quick way to do it. It was a very painful journey. You know what I mean? It was hard. It was, when you hear Dark Night of the Soul, it was that. It was a lot. I don't wish it on anybody, but I believe that that's what it was. It was like, okay, we need you to kind of get up here now.
Right.
And
So did you learn, you probably learned, I know you was involved in some charity or something, right? For a brain injury. Right. So it was put to use. It was something, I honestly believe that we both do what we do in different ways, right? But we both do what we do, helping people, and it's different ways because we both have completely different experiences, but we're both able to use that to see another person.
Oh yeah, for sure. And again, it was another situation like Canada, right? And it was another training session in a way because I had nothing to give to anybody, and I was a very big giver. I was an overgiver. I was a people pleaser at the time. you know, and so I gave a lot and I was not good at giving, but it put me in a position where I had nothing left to give and I could only receive. So, you know, because I mentally wasn't there, I physically couldn't work. I couldn't, you know, I literally had to allow the universe to take care of me. It happened when my company got bought out. So I was in between positions. So I didn't have healthcare coverage when it happened. I mean, there's a whole, yeah. So it was like I literally had to trust and have faith that the universe was going to guide me through this, because I didn't have any cognitive ability to even do it or even understand. You know, I'm like in this dark place going, I don't know how the hell I'm going to get out of this or even journey down this. Like, I don't know. And there was just thing after thing that, like, I could tell you happened with Calgary, where people came in, you know, my therapist, like you and I have talked about privately. I found her. I do believe that I know she was brought to me. There was things brought to me, my spiritual center, through a fundraiser for me. There was just things after things after things that happened that, you know, I couldn't work. I went from making $80,000 a year to not being able to work at all. Right.
Check yourself a little bit, right? Your old arsehole was flapping, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, the medical bills alone would drown somebody. And, you know, luckily my friend had picked a public hospital so I could, you know, that wasn't a private. So she did that on purpose. Like, there was just things that were put into place to guide me through this as best as it could, even though there was still a lot of, you know, it was like, you're going to have to surrender and you're going to have to really now trust in a different way in the universe and in these energy skills and learn a whole different side of things.
It's relearning everything.
Yeah, I mean, even that group that I found, that Love Your Brain group, I happened to find them on the internet, and they knew they were doing yoga or something, and I wasn't even supposed to be on the computer. I was supposed to only have 15 minutes of stimulation a day. So, and that's computer talk, lights.
Yeah.
But I had nobody. Yeah, so I found them, and ironically, when I found them, I'm like, I don't care about yoga, but I want to see they know about brain injury. Maybe they can help me. And the girl actually, so I wrote them an email, and the girl actually called me, and she said, we have this retreat in Vermont. It's free, but the application's closed today. You have to fill it out today to see if you can be accepted, because they had to interview you and see where you're at. And again, I was timing, and so I did what I could, and she fought for me because she really just bonded with me, and I got in. So that whole journey again was the universe lining things up for me to, but you have to take those inspired action steps, right? Had I not taken a step and followed through.
It's giving you something for a reason.
Yes.
The only reason it's scary is because there's an unknown behind it. It's
right.
Like, okay, I'm being told this, but I got no idea what's going to happen. No idea. But it's that thought makes you feel less than,
right.
You know, and then you don't go, you're not stepping forward into knowing what you can do. So, yeah, man.
Well, and I wasn't even cognitively there to work, right? Like, I didn't even know. I mean, when they released me, I thought it was 2014. I thought it was 1983.
Holy shit.
Yeah. I didn't even know my own name. Like, I couldn't tell you. So I wasn't even cognitively there to do the things that I'm telling you to do. Like, I literally was on autopilot. Like, when my family tells me about talking to me in the hospital room, like, I guess I was using the remote to turn the TV. I was using the bed remote. And my sister kept telling me, like, that doesn't work like that. And I didn't know. Like, I don't remember talking to them at all.
It's madness, dude. Wow.
And yet those shared conversations that they had with me in the hospital, I'm like, you were talking to somebody, but you weren't talking to me.
Holy shit. That leads me to my next, because it's good where it's leading. This is going smoothly, Beckett. I'm quite happy. You're doing a very good boy. When explain how you got into what you do to help others. How do you help others? What do you do to help? I know this because it the brain injury part, we know that bit. You got involved with that charity side of things with that, and you was in a group, and I told you last time, I'm like, you started a group, and you're like, well, I'm like, why not?
I did start a group. I ran a brain injury group for 3 years, 4 years, because was a client or obviously I was an injurer, and then they had me leading workshops on grief and how to navigate your grief and how to work with people who wouldn't, honor your brain injury and how do you grieve, because in our society we're not taught how to grieve, and I was very passionate about that. There's a high suicide rate in brain injury survivors, so it needed to be addressed, and I myself went through those thoughts, so I know what that feels like. And so I kind of, graduated out of that and helped them. And then I realized, that we all kind of want to now fit back into society, because we do. We go through this whole thing of who am I now? What is my new normal? How do I relate to people again? How do I fit? Where do I fit in with my disabilities? Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, but except now you're an adult, right? So that's why I said, I was like, take your life and your personality and wipe it completely clean and start over, but as a grown adult.
Like you've just been born.
Right, right. And so, and people aren't patient with you and they miss the old you and yada, yada, yada. So I was coaching people, but I just didn't know that's what I was doing. People would always come to me so every night at the brain retreats, I went there for 5 or 6 years. 3 years were as a survivor and trying to get back. And then the next 2, 3 years, I was running workshops and an ambassador and things like that.
Is that what you're telling me? You was a client at first? Is that
yeah, when I first went to the brain retreat, right, I couldn't remember the word pen. So I was in survivor mode. I wasn't leading anything. I was trying to just navigate my own healing. And then, after about 3 years, they started, people would come to me. So they started bringing me in as, a leader and running workshops and stuff. And
wow, that's cool accomplishment.
Oh, it was huge. And every night when you would join the brain retreat, the first night you'd share your story. So it's a really intense emotional night, if you can imagine. 50 people, survivors and their caregivers, sharing what happened to them.
Now, could they come?
It was all free.
Set program?
Yeah, they had, they would bring in Reiki healers. They had us we were the guinea pigs, because it was run by Kevin Pierce, who was a famous snowboarder. He was going to the Olympics to beat Shaun White and had a brain injury.
Oh, I know Shaun White. Yeah.
Right. Well, Kevin was the only one who's really beat him a couple times. And so they were going to go head to head, except Kevin, in practicing, suffered a very bad brain injury and it took him out. So his brother, Adam, and I'm good friends with both of them, created this Love Your Brain. So when I went, it was only their second year of being. Kevin was 6 years out, less than 6 years out of his brain injury. And so he would come. So it was this whole family. So we were kind of the guinea pigs at first, what works, what helps, how does the food affect them, Reiki. So they had all sorts of unique energy healings there to see what works, right? If it's not going to hurt, try it.
Yeah.
So every night it was free for survivors and one caregiver, free. You do fundraising, you just had to get there. So I was already coaching people, and so every night, this is where I really started to get pushed. Was Adam, Kevin's brother? We would have these sharing stories of your injury, and he would have me leading when I was there year after year, and I hated it because I didn't like to be in the spotlight. I'm like, why? So finally, I looked at him. Yeah, at one point, I go, Adam, why are you always having me lead? I don't want to have to tell my story over and over, you know what I mean? And he just looked at me and he put his hand on my shoulder. I remember he said, because you have a way of creating a vulnerable space for people that I have never seen anybody else able to do. He goes, people open up to you in a way that I just have never seen. And that's why I have you lead. And nobody had ever said that to me. So I was like, whew, okay. So again, I just trusted it, got over myself. And people just started coming to me. And even the woman there who ended up being my neurotherapist, she now calls me her colleague. So I went to her as a client, right? Similar to yours. And now she's like, oh no, you are my colleague. I see what you do with these people. And it was, so I was doing it. And so I was like, well, why don't I learn the proper way of coaching and mindfulness clinically and have some more training behind me and how to help people get to a place that they're struggling to get to. And maybe it's because they, for me, it was, I don't believe in myself. I don't know who I am. I don't have any confidence in myself. And a lot of my clients feel that way. It's like, I want to step out and I want to do big things, but I don't trust me. I don't think I deserve that. Or people will think weird things about me or whatever. And I help people get over that.
Yeah, yeah, because you've got the experiences.
Yeah.
You know, you can take someone and they're saying something that you've told yourself somewhere,
Yeah.
right? And when you've had the experiences that you've had, brain injury for a start, right, and
Yeah.
and having to relearn and everything, no one can come up to you and say, Beckett don't know what he's talking about,
Yeah.
right?
No.
I might say to you to piss you off, right? But no one can say that in all seriousness. Seriousness, no one can freaking say that. No one can take that away from you. It is what it is, right? It's part of the journey to be able to get to help another human being. It's where the way
Well,
it works.
I didn't want anybody to have to go through I went through. That was my feeling. You know, I felt very alone. I didn't have any help. I didn't know what I was doing. And I was like, if I can help one person. And so even in my group, and I ran it for 4 years and I'm still friends with a lot of them, I wouldn't suggest working with people unless I had worked with them. I knew them, you know, I trusted them, I vetted them. It was like, I take it very seriously, and I know people can do amazing things. I've seen it.
Yeah,
You know, I've helped hundreds of survivors now, and now I've moved more in, you know, because I would then have people who had cancer or people who just didn't have a trauma. They just struggled with a troubled childhood or, you know, dealt with severe anxiety and depression and said, you've really inspired me watching you. Like, how can I apply these tools? How can I learn to overcome this and get to the other side of this thing? And I'm like, you can.
yeah, yeah,
You can.
yeah. So what experiences are you using? What kind of tools are you using to
I
help?
think the biggest thing for me is mindset strategies are huge. You know what I mean? And that comes into there's manifestation, you know, that's part of it, but it's really, I know a lot about the brain, right? Because I injured it. So I'm fascinated with the brain and how it works and the energetics. And I dive deep into that. And, you know, that's when I got into human design. And then I got into gene keys because human design is your energetic blueprint. It's deconditioning yourself to live authentically, energetically, how you came here to live. Right. And
Right.
then gene keys are your shadows, these, which I'm a passionate person about teaching people the darker side of life because we don't want to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about it, but you got to talk about it. You can't have the light without the dark. And so I'm a big component of teaching people how to embrace their darkness, how to work through it, to find the gift in there because there is to get you to where you want to be. You know what I mean? I know I was in that tunnel,
Yeah.
right? Surrounded by darkness thinking I can't see anything. And there was times where I thought I'm never going to get out of this.
Lost feeling.
Right. I'm never going to get out of this. And it was like, no, one step in front of the other. I can get out of this. And I have now. It took me a long time, but I got there. And so it's like, you can do this. But if we can teach people these tools, and Gene Keys is one of those, it's your particular shadows that you're going to come across in your relationships, in your work, in your, you know, what you're here to do. What is your life purpose? And understand that things are bumping into you, these energy blocks are bumping into you for you to learn and to grow. And how can I work with that and actually turn it into a gift?
So can people get a hold of you somehow for these gene keys? You do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. There's links in the description, and my email's in there, which is Beckett@BeckettJohnson.com. But there's links in the descriptions if you guys want to know how you can talk. I mean, I talk to you first and foremost. We'll do
Yeah.
like a discovery call is what I call it, and see is this a good fit? Are you ready? Because this is tough work. It's not easy work.
Oh yeah,
You
I
know.
imagine. Yeah. I mean, you're going to do something with me that we're going to talk about in a minute. But you was talking, and I'm like, what? I don't even know what that. I said, I don't even know what that is, Beckett.
The Akashic.
You're throwing these freaking. I keep getting it wrong. It sounds like some energy bar to me, is what I said to you. I'm like, it sounds like I should be getting out the fridge and eating it for some energy, and it's got walnuts wrapped around it or something.
Well, I mean, that was something I realized in doing those workshops at the Brain Retreat. I can't write things out. And people, you know, I remember my friend being down by the water writing. She was running a workshop and she's like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm just sitting here. And she's like, you're getting ready to do a grief workshop with like 20 people. Aren't you going to? I'm like, no. And what I realized is I have to be with the people and I channel their guides. I channel my guides. You know, I understand what is needed and what needs to be said depending on the energy of the group and the people that are there. And I didn't know what it was at the time. I just thought it was weird. I was like, I don't know. I can't.
Right? It's the Akashic we're talking about, right?
Well, at the time, it wasn't the Akasha. It was just channeling. It was just
Oh,
I
okay.
would say things and get information from guides that would come through and come out of my mouth, and I'm like, I don't know why I'm saying this. Right? I'm going to tell you this, and then people would be like,
Yeah,
"How the
yeah,
hell did you know that?" I'm like, I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
Right?
And you
And
know, the
so
problem is you don't know. I sit there going, I can't explain it. You
I
know,
just know what I know. Right. And so when I went to school, I started learning you're channeling and you have gifts and I'm clairsentient and I'm clear knowing. And so I know these things. So it's only recently that I started diving into the Akash and learning how to channel because I wanted a deeper connection. I wanted to expand my gifts because that's what I do. I'm always wanting to expand and go deeper and know more. And then because if I know more, then I can help more people and I can help teach them to also tap in because we all have these gifts.
yeah,
We just don't know how to use it. We're not used to, working
yeah,
with them. Like you said, it's weird. We think it's weird, but really that's more normal than the way we live.
right. I mean, I've got a client right now. You talk about tapping in,
Yeah.
tuning in. I got someone right now that's freaking going through it a bit, and I'm saying, Buddhism 101, sit with your emotion, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, how do I do that?
Right.
Right? It's knowing how to. It's knowing to just be able to sit, be in the moment, feel it, hear it if you have to, right? Whatever it is, but seeing that it moves.
Well, yeah,
It's
that's mindfulness. Mindfulness is, one thing I realized running the group, people don't know what meditation, and we've talked about this for you guys, or mindfulness. And meditation is not stopping your mind.
right,
It's not.
right, right. Well,
You're never going to do that.
you did a certification, right, or something? Yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, it's the only accredited school it's in Phoenix, Arizona. It's called Southwest Institute of the Healing Arts, and it's actually recognized by the federal government and accredited. So I
Wow.
went in for spiritual life coaching, and with like a kind of a minor in medical clinical mindfulness. So we would, use guided meditations and stuff to help people say they were doing chemo or had severe pain. We would go in and lead them through a guided meditation, and they found, through studies that we could take their pain down 85-90% just doing a guided meditation. You know what I mean? And so then I got certified in sound healing because sound healing helped me so much in my brain. And because music and sound is the only thing that gets your brain working both sides of your brain at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's why your subconscious will have a huge, profound effect on that. Is you're using sound frequency, sound waves, stuff like that. So, the spiritual life coaching helped me in my channeling and understanding different people's beliefs and all those things, and really becoming a good coach is listening to your clients and
Sure. Yeah, yeah. Number one.
right. We don't know how to listen, and listening and focusing on them and giving them the tools they needed, and then incorporating that mindfulness. And then, like I said, I've done sound healing now, and I use tuning forks and give people frequencies if something doesn't work, because some people will be like, well, this meditation won't work. Well, I'm like, there's 1,000 ways to meditate. We'll find one that will work
Gotcha,
for you.
yeah, yeah. Everybody thinks it's the same. They
Yeah,
like
it's
sitting
not.
down. It's not. It's not
It's
like
not.
that. You can be walking and meditating.
Yes. Well, yeah. In a meditation retreat I went to, they would, have us do walking meditations where you just walk really slow and you're very mindful of your surroundings. You're being in that present moment. And so the more you practice, the more innate it becomes, but it's a practice. And so that's why I interview people, because it's like, are you ready to do the work?
Yeah,
Because it's
yeah,
going to
yeah.
be work. You gotta, again, just like manifestation we're talking about, you've got to take action. You can't sit on your couch and go, I want the best partner ever, or I want $100 and do nothing. That's not how that works.
Right. It pushes you in the right direction towards it, but you got to you got to get your ass off the couch.
Right.
Right.
Well, and that's why they call it co-creation. You have to co-create the how. And I think the biggest tidbit that I learned and practiced is the how is not up to you. How something is going to happen is not up to you. What is up to you, right? That's where it trips everybody up, because they go, this is what I want. Now, how is that going to happen? That's not up to you. That's the universe's job. Let the universe figure out the how. Forget that. What you need to know is, what do you want and what do you need? And most people can't answer that. They don't know. Like my friend came to me and she's trying to manifest a home. She wants to move into a house. She's going through a divorce. And she kept thinking townhome. And I said, well, what if the house isn't a townhome? You're caging in the universe. And she went, what? She goes,
Yeah.
well, then what do I do? I said, you visualize, what does the house feel like? How do you feel in it? What do you need? Like I did when I did my Calgary. How many bedrooms do you need? How many bathrooms? You know, do you need a nature area? Do you need a garage? Like, what do you need? And then put yourself in there. And what does it feel like already to live there? And
Exactly.
then that's it.
Everything. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. If it's a townhome, if it's a house, if it's a boat house, that's not up to you. Let the universe surprise you because 9 times out of 10, it will deliver more than you could have ever imagined.
Hence what you had. Right.
Right.
More, right. You know, you was able to get flatmates in and, you know, get flatmates in there, which now you're sharing and they've
Yep.
got it, like you said, right? He's actually given more again to be able to help someone else again, right? It's like,
Right.
now you can, you can pay back a bit, pull
Right.
in, you know?
Right.
Yeah, dude.
So
Yeah.
that's the key. You know what I mean? But if anything is people get tripped up on the how. So I practice a lot, obviously, in being certified. And so it's innately more easier, but you got to practice. And that's the only thing. People don't like to practice.
Practice. It's like we spoke, I think it was you when I spoke about stick shift car, right?
Right.
You know, you jump in everybody drives automatic. Jump in a stick shift and try and drive.
Right.
Right? You got several different things that the brain has to put all together at the right time. And you're going to be stalling. You're going to be, you ain't going to be going up freaking by your driveway.
Right.
I was going to
But
go.
eventually you do it, you don't even think about it. You're just
Yeah, don't even think of it.
yeah, it's the same thing. So
I raced my wife's car. and she found out about it at a party because my ego got in the way. And I bloody was at this party and I'm in a conversation with some lads, right? And I'm telling them about what happened. I didn't see her standing over here and she turns around and she goes, "You raced my car?" I'm like, "Oh, shit, ego." Damn it.
On that note.
Anyway, I wanted to listen. You told me a really interesting story that I want to go to because some people might not even. I mean, it's been
Well,
mentioned.
here's the thing. We're at 1 hour and 12 minutes.
Okay, but we're okay. We're all right. We're near the end. This is like my last question.
Okay, go ahead.
And then we can have other people because I did have other questions to ask you, but I'll wait.
Well, we can do a round 2.
Oh, well, you ain't getting away with that, mate. Round 2's coming.
I'm just saying, and just so you guys know, all your comments that are in the chat, I do read them. He goes back and reads them, so we do read them. So if we're not getting to them right now, just know they are noted, and I try to answer.
Is when we get done, they can ask questions.
Yes.
Because yes, I looked at some of my questions, then I thought, I've opened up a whole new ball game with the other questions. I
think what we might do is we'll just do a whole nother question and answer session with everybody. I'm gonna give you guys a link to come into the studio and ask us questions.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. You guys could even call in.
Oh, see, because I can't see it. I can't even see the.
Well, no, because it's on YouTube, but there's a link now in Riverside where I can give you guys that are here, or I can send out a link called the audience link where they would come in the studio with us and they can ask live questions and you and I can see it. They could even call in and we could take a phone call.
Man, the hell?
So just to put that out there if you guys are interested in any of that.
Well, yeah, I am. So let's.
But go ahead, ask me your last question so we can let these poor people go.
It's a double kind of question.
Okay.
Tell me the story about because you do art. You've mentioned it.
Yeah.
I know you do photography. You're a professional photographer, which you landed that one on me, and I'm like,
yeah, it's my passion. Yeah.
You know, hang on a minute, what's all that about? And you're like, oh yeah, I won this freaking competition, or I was the title. I'm like, son of a bitch, what else?
That was my art. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Anyway, and you know, we've already talked about your 30 because I was going to talk about your 30, but you couldn't tell me what team you went because you would have got a lot of flack from England from that.
Yeah.
Watch it. Anyway, your art story you told me, which I was really taken back by it, that when you said that you were doing pieces of art, I don't even know what art you do. I don't know if you use different
media. I do abstract art. Yeah.
Abstract art, what's that using? What does that mean?
Paints, art, acrylics, different types of mediums. Depends what calls me. Sometimes spray paint, sometimes pouring medium. Depends.
All right, cool. I didn't.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Shit. I didn't even know that. But you know, you told me this. You told me this story about how you were making these pieces of art and you were leaving them.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I started a thing with Instagram and it became really popular in Calgary where I would make art pieces and I would put them somewhere in the city and I would post a picture on Instagram, you know, kind of not giving the total location and said if you could find it, you can have it. And people kind of took off with it. I just did it because it was fun and I thought what a way to give back and wasn't looking for any recognition or whatever. And I had two people. This one guy, I did a little heart, and in Canada, a popular coffee joint is called Tim Hortons. And I left a little heart that I had. It was artistic. It was painted, and I left it just on the ledge in the coffee shop. And the guy found my art page, which I've changed and kind of took down. This was years ago, but and left me a message and said, "My son and I found this heart because I would sign it conscious graffiti. That was my
That was your name. Okay.
that was my art thing is conscious graffiti, right? And so he found me on Facebook and he said, my son and I were getting ready to go to the hospital to see my wife, who was having a major surgery. And we were really worried whether she was going to do well, whether she was going to make it. And when we sat down, I found your heart. It makes me teary-eyed just talking about it. And he said, I knew when I found that heart, she was going to be okay. And my son and I took it and we gifted it to her before she went in. And she still has it. They still have it. She did well. And he said it's that moment that changed our lives. And I knew that you are always going to be a part of our family now because I knew she was going to be okay when I saw that. And yeah, that one, it still, as you can see, hit me hard. It was like, whew, okay.
Doing me and Beckett.
It made me that one. And then I had another guy, I found a bigger piece I had put, and I would put them in plastic bags, you know, make sure they didn't get
a number or so. How did they?
No, I would just sign on the back of them conscious graffiti. I didn't even sign my name.
How did he find you then? Went to your website?
He looked up conscious graffiti on Facebook.
Oh.
And he noticed that the art was similar to what I was doing. And I had posted a picture of that heart saying, right, if you can find it, you could have it. And he's like, that's the piece. And so there was a bigger piece I left in a park up there. And I would, you know, package it so it wouldn't get damaged. And I would write in marker on the plastic bag, take me home, I'm free. And the one guy found it. He was another one. He found the piece. And he said, I looked around and he said, I couldn't believe this piece was free. And I was like, this is really, like, I'm supposed to take this. And he said when he pulled it out, it reminded him of a sunset from a camping trip he had with his dad. And his dad had just recently passed away. And so he took it. That was the other one that kind of hit me hard and still does. He said, I took it like that was my dad talking to me saying, here you go, son. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still here. And yeah, he found, again, he said, because I didn't write my name, and he found me and he said, I just want you to know that that painting hangs on my wall. And every time I see it, I get teary and it hugs my heart. So thank you for what you're doing. So yeah, it was crazy. And then the news caught wind of it. And I got, you know, a newscaster reached out and said, I want to talk to you about what you do, these secret art drops and how they're affecting the community. And I was like, okay. And then another artist on Instagram who was a jeweler reached out to me and she said, you inspire me. And so she started leaving pieces of handmade jewelry around.
Oh, get out of here.
And would do the same. Yeah, she would do the same thing. And she would drop a photo and say, if you find this piece of jewelry, you can have it.
Oh, wow. Like a movement.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, I would have friends reaching out to me that lived across the country and be like, if you ship me art, I'll drop them here. It was crazy. It was crazy. And that was never my intention. It was just, my intention was just to give art back to the world and you know, maybe beautify it or make somebody's day by finding this small piece of art that I could, it was my, you know, pay it forward.
Look what you did. There's no, you can't, that feeling that you get when somebody just says, I've had it, you know, shit, you were there at the right time.
Yeah.
Right. There is no monetary value.
No.
To what I feel, what that does to me, just knowing that you've just had a complete, maybe turned someone completely around from even where they may have been going, you know, and not going in a particularly clever direction, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and
It
you
was.
take it. Look what you did, man. Shit.
It was kind of like, here's my gift universe, right? Like you'll hear that the universe gives you gifts, you're supposed to use them. And, I'm getting back into my art. I had to sell all my art stuff in my studio. So I'm having to rebuild it, and it's
Sure.
costly, and I don't have a lot of the money to do it, but I'm trying to get there, and I'll get there. I will get there. But,
What is it
doing
you need?
that,
What do you
huh?
need? What do you need?
I just need some, wood panels to paint, just basic stuff. Like I used to have, my friends used to laugh. I had a storage unit full of art supplies, but after my injury, I just sell a lot of it to help pay for bills and stuff like that. So, I'm trying to just rebuild the basic. I have an easel, and I have some now brushes and paints that were gifted to me graciously, bought for me for my birthday. But, I just got to rebuild that, and it takes time, and it'll get
What?
there.
Maybe people can freaking donate something. Like they might have something, matey, that you don't know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Someone may have something that they're not using that you. So what is it you need?
I take anything. I mean, usually it's wood panels that I paint on because it's a heavier, art that I'm doing. It's a little more structured, so that holds it. So, any of those things, any acrylic painting, any brushes, anything. I'm not picky because I paint with pretty much whatever. I kind of like to do unusual things. There's a paint I want to get.
Oh, you're not exactly. You're not like No wonder you like unusual things in your art as well, matey.
I
You're
do.
not exactly.
Well, it's funny because a woman bought my painting in the coffee shop, and I know we're going longer here, guys, but she bought my painting in the coffee shop, and she believed that the heart heals the brain. And she bought two of my paintings, and Matt called me, and he said, "You're never going to believe what this woman. She runs a center, a clinic center, and believes that the heart heals the brain, and she works with people who struggle with depression, anxiety, right, brain type things." And she said, "Your artwork has such an energetic vibe that she
Yeah.
bought 3 of your pieces." And
Wow.
then she ended up calling me, and at the time I just wasn't well enough. She wanted to fly me to her clinic because my paintings were affecting her clients so much to do more artwork, but I wasn't well enough to do it, so I never did.
Okay. Anybody that's listening out there, listen. If you've got shit that you bang this fella some frigging because he's gonna do good shit with it. I
Yeah,
know because
yeah,
you do it for your own pleasure as well. But I know you're gonna be when you're affecting people that way. There's no
yeah.
way you do it once,
Well, it was
right?
funny because she didn't know my story, and he said I told her the artist had a brain injury. So it's amazing that you believe the heart heals the brain because the artist himself had a brain injury. And she's like, yeah, like I got to talk to him. I got to know this guy. So I know my art it's just an outlet, but it's a great reliever for people, and it's a way to bring beauty into the world. And so, yeah, when I did that with the paintings, that was people say, how does it feel to sell paintings or be nominated the best visual artist in Charlotte, which I was one year, which was great. It was fantastic, but nothing beats those messages from those people who found those pieces. you know
Right.
Nothing beat that.
So,
There's nothing beat that.
so what's next for Beckett?
Getting this podcast going, and helping more people. That's in getting my art back and going. I know people have asked me to sell even my photographs. I'm trying to get that going. I have a Oracle deck that I did the backgrounds and the art. And again, I'm going to try to get that going this year. So, I'm just and opening up my gifts and teaching people that open up theirs and step into their light. Like those are my goals. That's why I'm doing this podcast. That's why Steve and I wanted him on there. Like I wanted to feature everyday people who have extraordinary stories. And when I say extraordinary, they don't have to be you became a celebrity or you're a guru or you had a traumatic brain injury. Like
Right.
everybody's story is extraordinary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And by sharing your guys, you can help other people. You'd be amazed at how doing these small things like the art or that help people. And so that's my focus. That's growing this channel, getting us right, helping people on there. That's what I want to do.
When we sat back after we did the very first, well, I can't even remember when it was, a few weeks ago when you had me
Yeah.
on and you me as a guest on your channel graciously. Um, but when we got done with that, we both sat back. We're like, okay, what was that? Now what do we do now? So it was, you know, we're talking all the time, and we've got freaking ideas. It's yeah, it's gonna
Yeah.
go somewhere.
We're gonna take it. We're gonna take it there, and that's why it's important that we want you guys to get involved. We really like. I really want to make this channel a community with all of ours, and your channel, and support Grom, and like
Sure.
everybody else that's doing what they're doing, and support you guys in your endeavors as well. Because together,
Right,
we have no
right.
limits.
No, right. It just expands and expands, and you network, and people
Exactly.
follow people, and you start to network with them, and it just grows
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
there. But I just want to. I have this calendar. And I want to read the thing before we actually sign off.
Okay.
Right. It's the unfuck yourself calendar. Right. Because I've got to have that. Right.
Okay.
Actually, my wife bought me it for Christmas. The book is very good, actually. I got to
I know.
say,
I read the book.
very good book.
It
You
is.
should. It's a very, very good book. Very progressive. But I wanted to read this before we sign off, right?
Okay.
Because there's a lot. I've seen a lot going on with my clients with this, and I'm sure you have, right? And it goes like this: when you're not sure if you're following the right path, when you've been knocked down a few too many times, it's completely fine to get discouraged, hell, even defeated. What's not okay is to stop.
Yeah. That's perfect. That was it. That was what I had to live by every day. It was like I can't, right? If my thing was if I didn't die, which I didn't, I have a purpose, and so I can't give up. So that was a great way to put it, man.
And on that note, love you, brother.
Love you too,
You're,
man.
you're part of my family, matey. I can't go out. You're on my mind every day. And there's times where, like, when I was walking across that freaking hard concrete last night, matey, and my daughter's going, I'm going, fucking Beckett. Fucking walked across hot coals. I'm walking on concrete.
Mindset, man. And next time we can get into the Akash and all the quantum stuff if you want. That'll really get woo woo and teach
Oh
you
yeah,
guys.
because that's a whole different.
It's a whole different thing. And so if you guys are wanting to learn that stuff, let us know. And also Chill Adventures. I don't know if you're still on here, man. I saw your comments on the plant medicine and I did answer that. So you may want to check out that video and see my reply to you because I couldn't get you in the live chat, but I can help you with that, with some of the things you commented on if you want to. So
Cool, brilliant.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. Network.
Thank you guys seriously for showing up, for supporting us, for being here, for loving us, and for
Stay.
sharing your time with us. I know time is valuable, so we don't take it lightly. We love you guys. We'll see you on the next one, peoples.
Absolutely.